Hello and welcome to part 6. Part 6 is essentially going to be shading the nose. It's quite a detailed spot and again adds a lot of soul and a lot of life to the drawing when done right. So this will be a bit of an experiment to see if we can do it right. It's all right saying all this, but if you can't do it right, it's all for nothing. So we're going to have a little play and see what we can come out with. Now you remember way back when I first shaded this part of the nose, I talked about needing some texture, and we still want to keep that texture. So I'm using the side of the pencil to try and keep the texture that we've already got. I'm just going to draw in what I believe these lighter shades to be for the time being. This is a grey, it's a 273, which is almost like a browny grey compared to some of the others. And you can see I'm going back over the original shades as well. Not worried too much about going over the sides there at the moment. It's nice to be able to blend that in. Of course I don't want to go over every side. This area down here is going to be quite a bit darker, but we'll carry on as we are for now. Just get this undercoating. I will warn you, this may not work. My divine plan to shade this nose may go horribly wrong, but I'm hoping not. I've tried a few different techniques for this on a spare piece, and this appeared to be the most effective, if a little time consuming, as we'll see. I'm hoping this one won't be 2 hours long like some of the others have been. Okay, so I don't want to go too mad there. And what we do want to do is blend it in. I've got one with a bit of pink on here. I'm actually going to use that just to try and push some of this pastel down a bit. Because when I go over the next layer, I want the texture back, as I've discussed. You can see some of that dark from previously still showing through. We've just very lightly coated this. And I'm going to blend it right in afterwards. But we just want an indicator of where the basic shades are. Spaniels have quite detailed noses compared to some dogs. So this here really isn't sufficient to get the effect that we want. Now, going back to what I said before about blending the colours, in these darker areas we're going to do that again. Add some of the blue in. And do it all the way down this part. Sometimes doing this to some people will probably seem a little odd, but hopefully you'll see why. Should all become clear. That's what I keep telling myself. Oops, so easy. I've dropped something there, I'm not entirely sure what. And again, blending it in. Some people don't like to blend pastels. I think that's down to personal choice, you don't have to. And I'm just trying to blend it in really to push the pastel down into the paper as much as I can. I want to put on some very fine detail later, so I need to make sure there's something to grab my pencil with. Okay, back with the old black. The previous colour I just used, by the way, I will tell you if I can find the darn thing. Well, I would tell you, but I seem to have put it down and it's disappeared. Oh, it was a 155. Again, these are all pit pastels at the moment. Using slightly circular motions here to try and keep this rounded look to the nose that it does have. And as you can tell, there's a bit of texture there again, which we want. And the reason for this circular motion is to create an uneven surface, which these dogs definitely have in their nose area. I'll create a slightly darker line there. Down here we're going to go put some darker areas in, because this whole area under here is going to be quite dark later. Almost to where it blends in with this nose. You can hear the sound of children playing up upstairs. My wife is out at work, so all the cats are away, the mouse is playing, or the dog is playing in this case. Flying in the face of what I've just said and drawing hairs there. That's getting carried away with what I've been doing all along in this drawing, really. Easy to get carried away and fall into the technique. And the nose is quite dark. You can see this almost textured effect, this circular effect that we're getting here is looking quite nice. I'm pressing actually very lightly, enough to get some pastel on without colouring the whole thing in completely black. And this slightly funny texture creates these almost circular bumps on the nose. Which work quite well for the way Springer Spaniel's noses work. And later on we can use them, the little circles, to add small highlights in. And we don't want to make it look like we're drawing circles. We just want to be adding almost base texture. So you can see as I'm drawing, the differences in pressure are just sort of creating these weird little bumps. It's a simple technique, but only works if you know how to do it. Like anything. Now on my reference image there's some sort of pinky colours, so I'm going to look for a colour I pulled out earlier that seems to have sprouted legs. One day I'll get the knack of doing this without losing my pencils and brushes as I'm going. Let's have a quick look. It's probably a little bit too pink. Let's have a look at that. Ah, this is a nice one, I think. This is a... oh god. The downside to Faber-Castell pencils, if you keep them in their original containers, they don't bloody move. You can't get them out very easily. So this is a 190, it's a sort of pinky brown, and I'm just going to put a bit of this in a few places. Again, adds a little bit of texture. Saves the nose from being too boring. It's there in a few places. It's not a predominant colour, so we don't want to go too mad with it. Now, using the very same sort of circular motions, I'll probably need to go over this afterwards a bit more with that black again in a second. But we just want it in the odd few spots, just coming through a little tiny bit. There we go. And then we'll go back here. Get a good look at this nose now, because it's not brilliantly easy to see. Just shrinking my reference photo to about the same size so I can really get the shape of this nostril in. And again, even here, I'm doing this circular motion to capture the same look. It's also good for learning some of the pencil control that you need. Just pulling in some of these dark lines. And pull the hairs down when we shade this later on. I'll get the basics in. Okay. Still keeping this nice circular motion. Pressing a bit harder this time. We want some of this black showing out. I need to put a little pink stripe into this nose, I think. Let's check my shaping here a bit. There we go. And likewise here we've got quite a straight sort of edge there. There we go. Right. These are very colourful. Now then, how do we want to do this light on the top? I want a little bit more black up here first. Now I'm tempted to try with the white. So what I want to do here is where all your little, slight little lines are, you can almost see hints of your circles. And you just want to draw these little patches right in these little gaps of circles. And they're just slight marks. Remember, not doing bright white highlights here because this is a black nose, strangely enough. So I don't want to press too hard. But likewise, I've got a feeling the grey will be probably a little bit too dark. And those circles create this sort of natural bumpy effect, which can start to build up the texture of. And they're all slightly different shapes. Just got to keep an eye on your reference photo. Make sure you're going in the right direction. And these are going to come down here, a couple of more. Don't worry about this not looking perfect yet. Whenever you're doing a drawing, you'll notice you'll get to points where you'll be, oh, I can't get this to look right, oh, it looks stupid. God knows I've done that enough times. I think most artists have while they've been doing a piece of work. As you remember from the first tutorial when my son joined in with my bits of rhetoric, a drawing isn't finished until it's finished. Got some nice shade there. Right. Some of these are very, very gentle touches. And there's very little coming off the pencil. Unlike when we did the white lines over here, I do not want to create bright white. I'm just taking a hint. And the white adds that little bit of texture even on this part here. This isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination yet. It's quite hard to get these little bits of shape in. I'm not brilliantly happy with this at the moment, but I also know why. Some of these spaces up here are probably a little big. So I start to mess them up a little bit. Especially with the angle of the nose that's up here, you can't see necessarily every single crease in the skin of the nose. A little white speck there. Don't really want that there. Easy to do, but I've got a nice dirty marker here, nice dirty tortillon, so I'm just going to pop that in there and just blend that a little bit. There we go. Now what you can see is we've got this sort of slight highlight at the top, and we've got these slightly different colours there. I'm going to just shade a little bit of brown into this as well. trying to build up the depth of tone. That's gone a bit greener than I intended. And nice, excuse me, brownie tints are shining through quite nicely there now. And back to my trusted whack, trying to get a real good feel for this nose. Just trying to really darken this bottom area up here. Okay. And you'll see there's a few funny sort of patches, and they're quite important to get those little odds of shapes in, because they just add that. I'm trying to draw a straight line, just a squiggle, if that's the best way to describe it. Then again, coming up with our circular motions, trying to really blend where we brought these little bits in. You'll find as you do it, you'll find spots that you've drawn that you think want to be darker. You'll find various different elements that you need to bring back out, and we can do that quite easily with various different colours. If I find my wonderful little pink again. That pink is the most elusive pencil I've got here, I think. Do I want to use that? Tiny amount maybe. Just up here. We want to make it not look too much like a brickwork pattern, especially in some of these areas. So giving the illusion of a bit of a texture without going too mad on this. sort of see this texture bit here. Hint of a shine, but not too much because it's not a bright shine in this doggy. Starting to take a bit of shape there now. And we've got this sort of dark patch in the middle, and then again over this side we're going to do the same again. Even where we've done before, as if it's not even there, because we've darkened some of the areas by going back over it with the black. And now we're going to just do it again. Always keep an eye on your reference picture, because if you don't, you're going to put some highlights where they shouldn't be, I expect, or not enough where they should be. So you can see here we've got this sort of darker patch, that's the nostril there, we've got this darker patch here, so some of this light is a bit brighter towards the edge of the nose, just here. And there'll be a couple of times where you might want to stand back and have a quick look to make sure it's gone the right way. Oh, I'm seeing that now, slightly overworked than what I wanted on this top area, but we need a bit more dark in there. Where are we missing here? Remember, the reference on this is very blurry, so we haven't got a massive amount of detail to work with. For reference, I'm standing up now, which will seem a little odd perhaps. Where's that nice browny grey? This is quite a nice dark grey. I just want to pull some shades into the nose. Again, I'm just making hints of patches. It's almost like drawing small spots. You can add a bit more shading whenever you want to. Need to keep my reference photo fairly upwards there. There we go. a slight edge there. I'm just going to try and draw that in a little bit. A bit something down here. You can see how just adding these very slight tints of highlight really helps to start to shape the nose. And you'll have odd little bits of uneven light and uneven shadow. That don't always make sense when you're drawing. But for whatever reason, they are there. Always do a slightly darker patch in the middle of that nose there, but this is again, they start to have to be quite careful. I'm almost just trying to draw all these little shapes back in. Here's my lovely, I don't know, I thought it was my lovely wife, but it's my lovely son instead.
Come here.
There we go. And then we're just going to put in a few tiny dark flecks in here. This is very similar to how we've done with the fur, but we're not trying to create this too much of a fur type look, obviously, because this is a nose. Sometimes I do say the stupidest things. Blend that slightly there. Yeah, still not overly enamoured with this spot here. Just doesn't quite feel round enough. I'm missing something here, I'm not sure entirely what it is. Missing a hint of light. And I think it's because we darkened this spot here. So again, adding some of these slightly dark ridges. Hopefully not going quite so overboard as I did on this side. It's looking a bit better now. It is only a bit better, but better nonetheless. Just got to make sure that tone works well. So you just stand up again and have a quick gander at this, just from a distance. Oh. It's getting there, it's taking shape. There's a few bits that I'm still not quite satisfied with yet. I think part of this is because I know I've cheated a little bit on this side by doing something which I thought I could get away with. And I'm not quite so sure. And that is this part here. It actually has a bit of pink nose coming down, and I think, regardless of the fact that I didn't really want to draw that in because it would look a bit odd, I think it looks equally as odd without it. So let me see. I think we want this one. It's not an amazingly dark colour. But it just frames the nose a bit like that. There we go. I might want to blend that a little more closely there. Okay. And then this paper hasn't covered amazingly there, so let's push with that black back in. I don't want to use too much black, to be honest. And I get some of this little blue shading again, and just add a little bit in there. It just helps add more depth, which may sound a bit strange, but it seems to work. As you can see. Probably do the much sharper pencil here, but pulling some of these tiny little flecks that we can pull into a bit later on. In fact, here it's going to come down like that. Okay, and again here, let's have this sort of slightly right. Let's have a play. Again, we want to blend this a bit more down the bottom end of the nose here. Like I said, I'm not over keen on black, but the black is a good starting point. taking some nice nice effect to it now. These tiny flecks of black that I keep just adding in, and they are tiny touches. And they're just intended to show this funny sort of bumpy nose that these dogs seem to have. And again, when you add these flecks of white back over again, just trying to be slightly rough with it, they can help add highlights on the little ridges. I don't know why I'm talking in all these funny little pauses, it's a bit strange. I may just overwork that. So just to show how easy it is to do. I think on these brighter nodes, it's also where the darkest little tiny flecks are. Do with a bit of a sharper. Just creating a bit of a ridge on there. Not sure what I'm doing to this now. Don't be afraid when you're doing this if it doesn't look quite right. One of the nice things about Pastel, it can be fairly forgiving as long as you're careful while you're doing it. You can pull in these extra little, and bear in mind we're not trying to make this white, we're just trying to give it some form, some highs and peaks and troughs. And a dingle, a bit of highlight in a couple of little places. There's a couple of spots where we're pressing just slightly harder. But again, not massively. We don't want to overdo. Still not quite where I want it to be, this isn't. Back to the trusty old black. And I'm just going to pull that down a slight shade there. Just a bit across there. In reality, this doesn't have this thing here, it's actually the edge of a nose, but I want to make it look a little bit more right. Pulling in a few streaks down here. Not really supposed to be doing the fur at this moment. Now sometimes when you get to this point, you can look at it and go, oh, hang on, something's not right. Now I know there's a problem with this, and I'm standing here and I'm staring at it and I'm really trying to work out what it is. And what I think I probably know, it's the lack of shade a bit on the nose here, perhaps, because often between any sort of light and dark area, there's an extra dark bit. It's like a dual source of light. And it's important to try and get those little sources correct in terms of the shadings. And so forth. I've made this nostril here look huge. I'll maintain an element of the size because it is a big nostril. Tint more. Like that. Still missing some sort of shaping here. I think it's because he's got this weird little kink in his nose. Which is throwing it a bit off in the way that it looks in, or how it might look to you and me. Just can't quite get this rounded look here. I'll come in a bit more with this slight pink here. Again, this is the 189. So using just to pick out some darkness, some light, sorry, in amongst the darkness. You can see there. Sort of mixed up image in some ways, this one. You can see this darkness coming, but it's almost like these little slightly dark streaks are only barely there. There we go. This is the bit where I say, oh, we'll take a 5-minute break, come back and have a gander at it. Sometimes just moving away from drawing just for a few seconds can really help you pinpoint an area that you can't quite see as being wrong. So before I do any damage more, I'm going to quickly stop the video just for a few seconds, take 5 minutes, and then I'll come back. Maybe just bring that around a bit there. There we go. I shall be back in 2 seconds while I go away, come back, look at it and go, oh, that's nice, or oh dear, I know what to do. I'll be 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm back, and what I've done in the last few minutes while I've just been having a quick look, trying to satisfy my mind as to where I don't feel this is right, is I've looked at some other pictures and image references of Springer Spaniels, and aside from a few bits, I think I know what we need to do. And I'm fairly sure, in actual fact, that if I can find my black, which is once again sprouted legs, oh there it is, I think this nose is slightly the wrong shape. I'm going to put my reference image just above where I'm working. Come round a bit more like that. You can't see an awful lot of detail there, but in a second, I add our pinky colour back in that we were using before. This is just to bring some colour into the nose, which I think it's actually missing on the reference with it being so blurred. Try a bit of this one as well. Spots here where we want to just almost drawing these in now. Maybe my face isn't in this picture. I've been looked at some reference photos, as I said, of other Springer Spaniels of various sizes, shapes and shades. Just to make sure I'm not going completely mad about what these look like. I've drawn quite a few of these in pencil, and this actually is very similar to my pencil technique. Graphite pencil, of course, I refer to. And we're almost drawing these random shapes, a bit like doing scales on a dragon, if you do that kind of work. I can really hear my children upstairs making lots of noises that perhaps they shouldn't be, so I might have to go and deal with that as well. That's looking a little bit better now. Starting to. I need to still bring some of this light down here. doing that bit with this pink. Again, this is the 189. This gives you that brown tint to the nose, which it has got, without a doubt. And so there's flexing, tiniest bits, just to give it a little bit of continuity. While I was outside, the cats, you may have seen this in my other drawings, actually attacked this. I had it sat on the sofa looking at it from a distance, and one of my cats came in through the door and wasn't very friendly to my poor little puppy. I just saved it. I had all his feet over here, which I think you can't quite see now. Thank God. I had a momentary panic attack. Yeah, this really does come lighter here. Doesn't appear to when you first look at the reference, but because it's blurred, you can't really make it out as well as you'd like. And I think that's why this wasn't quite as shining the way I wanted it to before. Perhaps I'd done the other part of it a little bit too a bit too grey. This probably doesn't go quite so far down here. Sometimes just pressing your finger on can really pull in some of that colour that you want. I really am trying to use just the very tip here. Just to give it a slightly peaked look on these little ridges. Just seems to me, because I think it's because of the angle of the nose here, looks a bit funny, hence I tried to darken it up a bit. I still think perhaps I need to do that. Again, with this reference image being so blurry, we've really got to almost guess the colouring. It's looking a bit better. And then again, putting that slightly darker look along there. intensified this here rather than that. Might be the positioning of this shadow that I've got wrong. Therefore we can just move this over slightly. This is a bit on about when I said that pastel can be fairly forgiving. I've got quite a bit of pastel on this now, but quite like that, and that's getting a bit better, a bit more than what I was aiming for. I've got much of a point left on this now though. I'm just trying to build up this bit of shine here. At this point there's quite a bit of pastel in that area. Oh dear me, my chest. There we go. Let's just brought in a bit more of a shape there. And that one is definitely my wife coming back, so hopefully we're nearly done here. I may have done a little bit of bit too much there. We'll just try and bring this in here. There we go. When you do this, you start to see bits where you can improve the shape. I'll do it with a grey though, will I? Black's hiding away in my hand here. It's really starting to pull this around now. Just need a little just to blend this down a bit there. It's these little spots where you know what you want it to look like. Your reference picture is not going to allow it because it's just not clear enough. So you have to work and keep working a little bit.
Night.
Good night. Some of the boys off to a land of nod. Shape is fairly correct. Maybe just slightly over that. Just bring this back in a little bit. Okay. There we go. Wait till it stops. And carefully pick it up. The joys of not taping your work down. There we go. And pause again. Okay, just carrying on with these last few seconds of the nose then. Sometimes it's hard to see. What we remember here is that this part of the nose here is going across the bridge of the nose. So there's a bit of light just going in around there. You can probably see it better on the camera than you can in the reality. And maybe just put a bit there just to keep it a little bit rounded. And I'll keep that dark in there a little bit. And I think overall, well, I've had to alter this a little bit from the original reference. I'm quite pleased with it. Got a little black flecks again. And these are just, as before, tiny little highlights, dark lights, shadows in the bridges. I want to just take that down just a touch there. Just to give that shadow bit back. Fairly pleased with this now. I'm not brilliantly happy, but I think maybe we're as close as we're going to get. Let me have another look at this now. Okay, I'm trying to hold that camera steady. I think I've got it. I just need a tiny, and it is a tiny. Probably need to sharpen his pencil to do this. I've lost my pointy bit. So what I need is just a little bit here. Just add a bit more curve on this bit of light. There we go. This is why I said before, sometimes it is just reworking at those little tiny spots. Here we are. Much happier with this now. It's got much more of a curve where I wanted it. Not to be too grandiose there, but okay. Overall, I think I'm quite happy with that. And there we go. A fairly accurate representation of the very characteristic nose these lovely little puppies have. Okay, I'm going to stop before I carry on, he says. Yep, there we go. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, quite like that. Let's hold the reference photo. Do what looks right instead. Okay, right. Assuming I'm happy with that in a few minutes, I'm going to call this tutorial wrap, and that is at least how I have drawn a Springer Spaniel's nose. Speak to you all soon. Bye bye.